Hi, welcome to this fourth live of the Smode Academy. I'm Francis, the founder of Smode, and today I'm with two of my colleagues, Erwan, which is here.
Hello everyone. I'm Erwan, product specialist at Smode Tech, and today we will learn about the creation of your very first project. And to help us with that, we are with Laurent Meyer, who will forward your question on the YouTube chat. So Laurent.
Yes, so Laurent, I'm dev at Smode and you will ask all your questions right here in the chat. I will answer them or I will forward them to Francis or Erwan.
Erwan.
So yes, let's start. We will provide the full project we are going to make this morning on the Smode Academy. So I will use the composition of yesterday to create this project. So don't hesitate to go to the Smode Academy webpage,
Yeah.
and here you can download the compositions of yesterday. So I have added on my Smode right here. So this has been organized like that. I have my composition here and I have project here, and the composition of yesterday is accessible right here. So we will use this media. Don't forget that everything we are going to create for every live are downloadable on the Smode Academy server, on the Smode Academy website, sorry. Francis, maybe you want
Sure.
to create? Yeah.
Maybe I can just add some info about the way the files were organized. So what happens is during the first launch, Smode creates a media directory called Smode files. So this media directory is located in the My Documents folder of your user account. So here it is. So you basically have two ways to bring your own media files into Smode. You can either simply copy them there into the Smode files, and they will appear into Smode, or you can add new media directories inside Smode. So we quickly showed this yesterday, but as a reminder, it's here. Right-click, add a media directory. So in this case, Erwan did it the simple way by simply downloading the compos and putting them in the provided Smode files folder. So today's topic is about creating our first project inside Smode. So first of all, what do we mean by a project? A project is the basic thing we are constructing when we use the full Smode workflow. So if you were a Smode Studio user, you only know compositions so far. So as a little reminder of yesterday, a compo is basically filling a rectangle of pixels. So it has a width, a height, a quality, an alpha layer or not, but it's basically filling a rectangle of pixels. Our matter with Smode is to make whole shows and to fill stages with video. And a stage is most of the time something much more complex than just a rectangle of pixels. The stages we are working on can be of many different types, but the common characteristics are that we often have many displays. It can be video projection, it can be LEDs, it can be lightning fixtures. So a stage is actually a collection of objects in the 3D world, in the real world, which are located in 3D and which operate together. And this whole thing is very specific to video shows and does not exist at all in tools such as After Effects and so on. And the big interest of Smode is to provide this end-to-end solution, which will integrate the compositing aspect we saw yesterday with the media server and stage aspects we are going to see today. So that's basically really the two main things of Smode that Smode brings together, and for which Smode is probably the only software to connect those two things so strongly together in a consistent and unified framework. So let's proceed. The usual first step is file new project. I'm going to move the computer screen. So again, we are on a Smode Academy server like yesterday, and I'm going to move it in front of my eyes so I don't have to move my head all the time. So here I am. The first step is to create a new project, and when this appears, you have the choice between multiple wizards. But in order to learn Smode, I strongly suggest simply using the minimal wizard. And inside the minimal wizard, there is only one question to answer, which is the resolution of the first content map. So we will see what this exactly means, but again, it can be changed at any time. So we can just leave it like it is to start. And when you create a new project, the first thing you have to do is to save this project somewhere. This will enable to collect media files along with the project. So let's call it Smode Academy first project, for example. And now the project window appears. So maybe just a quick note about the Smode Designer demo we provided a few days ago. The file new project function is actually not working yet in the demo, but I think it's being fixed, or it's even already has been. So you will very soon be able to do this with the free demo version. So when you enter this, you have small differences with the usual compo window. The first difference you can see is that you have a bar of buttons in the top part, and we have these two contents and pipeline buttons. So contents and pipeline. Why do we have this? It's because Smode is made of two sides. One side is the content side, and the other side is the media server side, let's say. And basically, this will reflect the two jobs that we are unifying and bringing together with Smode, which are the content creation jobs. This means creating pixels, basically, and the media server job, which means taking those content pixels and turning them out into actual outputs of the media server, which can be specific to the technical setup. So this is mostly, the pipeline is mostly a technical job, and most of the time it will be video operators, video encoders working on this side. And the content tab is mostly a content designer's job, and users of this part will typically be the content designers. So some users of Smode can do both, like superpower users, but when it comes to serious productions that involve teams, most of the times the jobs are clearly separated, and there is one Smode technicians that one or multiple that can deal with the pipeline side, and there are one or multiple Smode designers that can deal with the content side. So content and pipeline is really something fundamental in Smode projects, because it really reflects the two sides. So I think Erwan can follow.
So you have in your tabs, sorry, I have to go back to this mode. In your tabs, you have a very important one, which is the stage. Let's begin with the stage. When you select one element of this tabs, as you can see, the tabs here are still independent of this one. So you can be on the stage mode and access to the pipeline mode or on the content mode. So stage is only to add some elements that you want to use during your show. So it's here when it's inside this 3D space, you will create a LED screen, for example, or surface for video projections, or video projectors, or LED structure, or anything else. Here,
Basically,
yes.
element, sorry to interrupt. Basically, any element that has an existence in the 3D actual video setup will be modeled inside the stage. So the stage is really like a modeling of the 3D actual setup. And also the stage will be able to contain more virtual elements like virtual projectors, for example. This camera mapping, you will see it better.
Yes, so inside this stage, you do not have to import the full room or the full theater. For example, if you want to have a video projection inside a theater room and you have the 3D object of this theater room, do not import the entire theater room inside this layer element, this elementary, sorry. Do not import it because you only have to import inside the stage the screen you want to project on it. So this is for the stage, but before creating some stage element, we have to look at our content. Here I have an element that is a content test pattern. So if I visualize it, this is the rendering of this content. And here you have a drop-down list with content map inside. And content map is an object of Smode that can be accessed here or thanks the pipeline panel here. So what is content map? Content map are kind of free resolution Canva that collect the content and dispatch this content inside some stage element. I don't know if you want to have another description of content map, Francis, maybe, but this is how I explain it.
Yes, usually the way I explain content maps is that it's the rasterized part of the content. So you could think as, because the important aspect of content maps is that you can have multiple content maps in one given project. And you can think at the content maps as channels in some way, like audio channels, for example. So we often have this analogy, and we consider the content maps like video channels. And basically, the job of the content side is to fill pixels for every of these video channels. So it's important to have the possibility to create multiple content maps, because this enables to deal with really different type of displays, from very low resolution LED displays or even point fixtures, so single LEDs, to super high definition video projection, for example. And we are able to conciliate all of this within the same framework thanks to this content map. So again, it's like with sound Dolby 5.1, you have different channels. Here we have the same idea. And the very first job when creating a Smode project is to think at this, which channel do I need? For example, if I have a screen on the left of the stage, another screen on the right on the stage, the simple answer will be create two channels, so one for the left or one for the right. But what you need to understand about content maps is that rasterization occurs inside content maps. This is really the golden rule. So it's like if you were computing one compo for every content map. So please proceed there.
Okay, so let's have an example. Here I have a first layer, content test pattern, and inside my content, so my show, I can create other layers. So let's have a uniform red one. If I am on this content map, as you can see, this content map collects this layer and become red. I can create another content map here by right-clicking in the pipeline, create content map. Let's rename it another content map. Okay. You have some mode to visualize your content maps that can be very useful when you are on stage. Here I am in the mode test pattern. So I visualize the test pattern that correspond to this content map, but I can also visualize here by clicking on this little movie icon, the content cast inside this content map. If I am in my content map, my first content map is it red, and in another content map, it's black because I don't have layer that target this content map. So if I go back to my content and select this layer, I can choose to target the red to the another content map, and this one become red.
So if I may, Erwan,
Yes.
I think you just described really, this is very important. It's the difference between a scene and a compo, because if you go back to the content, you can see that what we create in the show, it really resembles to a compo like we are used to, like we saw yesterday, except there is one major difference, which is that every layer has a target now. And this is really the big difference between the show, the scenes, and the compos. Now every layer has a target. In this case, it can be either the first content map or the second content map, but you will see that we quickly end up with many possible targets, which basically are all possible ways to send content into the stage. So here, now we are not doing a compo. The show, which contains these two layers, the content test pattern and the red layer uniform, it's not a compo, it's a scene. And the main difference is that the content now is targeted. It's linked to elements from the pipeline.
Yes. So maybe now I can show you how to assign not a layer to a content map, but a stage element to a content map. So I go back in my stage, so in the 3D view of my stage, and I switch to pipeline to access some stage element. I think we will later have a precise overview of the stage element we can create. For this morning, we will only create a stage composed by a planar LED screen. So let's create one. And here you can pick the content map you want to assign to this LED screen. So let's have this first one. I click OK. And here we go. This is my LED screens. My LED screen, sorry, gets the content of this content map, and I can choose the another content map. So this one, this LED panel become red. Let's switch like that. So now, if I go back in my content and, for example, create a gradient, automatically, my LED screens get the content of this circular gradient, because this circular gradient is cast inside the content map, and the content map is attached to this LED screen. I can create another LED screen attached to another content map and move it like that. But this workflow is not the very best one, because you, thanks this workflow, you will have to create a content map for each stage element. So your pipeline will be maybe that huge, and you won't be able to access and to the stage element or the pipeline very easy. So one of the best things you can do with content map is to subdivide it into what we call content area. So content area are a part of the content map. It's a subdivision of this content map. You can cast some content inside this area, and this area can be attached to a stage element too. So, for example, if I right-click on my content map here, so in the pipeline mode, don't forget, and I create a content area, I can rescale this content area, so you can see it's a sub-element of the content map. And I can, for example, put the circular gradient to content map, content area. And this is what my content map is currently casting inside my LED screen. So my very first LED screens now look like that.
So maybe I can add here
Yes.
a little explanation for those who wonder. The content areas, in fact, they really behave like two objects in the same time. On the content side, they behave like placement presets. So just easy presets to send the content on one specific part of the stage. So they behave like placements. Whereas in the pipeline side, they behave like extractors, an easy way to extract one part of the content map and to attach it to one specific surface or one specific screen. So they really are both. It depends on which perspective you are. From the content side, it's a placement. From the pipeline side, it's an extractor. Also, maybe I can give a little concrete example, like for, let's say, for example, a TV set. Nowadays, there are more and more LED screens like everywhere on the TV set. And there often is a very logical structure. Like, for example, you can have the whole screen is made of one part, which are stairs. And for every stair of these stairs, you have a subpart, or screens made with panels, like 7 panels. You will have one subpart per panel. So what we tend to do, the overall way we work, is to group together natural groups of screens that share the same pitch, because we always want to be like pixel perfect. So one pixel is one pixel. And the rule in order to merge multiple screens into one content map is that these multiple screens should have the same pitch, and then it's totally safe to group them, and it often makes the workflow more efficient.
So I think I have some problem. I can hear Francis. So, okay. Once you have your content map with content area, if you go back to your stage and access your stage element, you can choose here, do not look at the entire content map, but you can choose to look at the content area. And this is what you have. So when you understand that, you understand also that if you have 3 planar LED screen into your stage, you don't have to create 3 content map. You can create a content map with a multiply of 3 full HD. So for example, I can add a custom resolution to this first content map. So this is full HD. I can decide to organize it on full HD multiplied by 3. I click OK. So this is what I have. My content area is not relevant anymore. And on my content map, I can subdivide it very, very easily thanks this tool, the split horizontally, that will create sub-content area automatically. So here I want 3 content area in columns range. Let's click OK. Automatically, I have a first content area, a second one here, and a third one here. If I go back into my stage, so here is not happy because I have removed the content area he was looked at. I can tell that you are looking to the very first content area. You will look to the second one. And I will create another planar LED screen that will look to the third one. Okay, I move it like that. So now
I usually use the duplicate function when doing this in order to create more screens quickly.
Yeah.
Just with Ctrl-D and reattach.
Yeah. So now, if my circular gradient is sent inside my entire content map, I can move the circle. Oh, sorry. Okay, I don't have access. Okay, Sorry. I can move the circle from one screen to another one. Because inside my content map, it looks like that. I hope it's clear. I don't know, Francis, if you want to add something about that, or if I continue to
yeah, maybe I can show a quick example.
Yeah.
So if I take the only image I'm actually using in Smode on a daily basis, like this is, I think, a full HD image, if I'm not wrong. Yes, this is a full HD image, as we can see in the parameters here. So since we are 3 times full HD by default, it will take only 1/3 because it's pixel perfect by default inside Smode. Now inside we can place things in 2 ways. Either we use the target, so with this I can send it to the first screen, the second one, or the third. If I send to the whole content map, by default it is pixel perfect, so it only goes in the center. But this I can change it with the placement menu. And here you see a number of shortcuts which are very useful when operating this mode and which are new in the 8.6 version, thanks to the work of Laurent. And for example, you have this full, so Ctrl-Alt-5, which will let the layer stretch to the full area. So maybe this makes it a bit easier to understand. So now I'm sending to the full content map. And now I'm sending to the full 1, 2, and 3. So of course, all of this, we can also see it in the actual stage and have the immediate feedback of what happens there. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah.
Erwan?
Okay, so I will add something with this LUT visualizer. For example, if you want to have the same pictures repeated inside the third screens, the 3 screens, you want maybe to duplicate, so Control D, duplicate the layer and change the target. So this is the very first reflex you will have on Smode to repeat a layer inside every screen or every stage elements, but it's not the best one. I don't know if you remember inside our composition of yesterday. I think I can open it. Inside my composition of yesterday, you remember that the grass, so the grass, where the grass? Here, the grass is only one picture with multiple renderer, and multiple renderer are the same content, the same layer, sending in different places, in different positions inside your space. So the space here is actually your Canva, your composition. But when you are on project creation, the space here are your stage elements. So if you want to send these pictures inside the 3 screens, you also can create renderer. So I add a renderer. And this is what you have. A first renderer, parametric renderer, that targets the content map first content area. And another one, you can target the second content area and Control D. You can target the third one. And this is the best way to send content repeated in each screen. Do not duplicate the layer, because if you duplicate the layer, Smode will calculate this layer as many times you have duplicated. I don't know if you want to add some precision about that, Francis, because you are the developer.
Also, I wanted to remind you that you can, if you apply modifiers, like let's put a blur on this one, for example. Blur is an effect I particularly enjoy in Smode because it's the result of years of attempts to create blurs in real time. And now I'm rather happy of the results. So now I'm blurring this image. And as you can see, it blurs the 3 instances on the 3 renderers. So often when you display and you want to adapt colorimetry, it's very useful to have these common modifiers applied. But you can also make these modifiers specific to one of the runners only, or combine global modifiers and local modifiers. Maybe Laurent, we have some questions during this time.
There have been a few questions that has been mostly answered, but for instance, people were amazed that you could type a mathematical expression in the numbers field.
Yes, you can do it in any number field at any time. It works everywhere well and is super useful.
Right, there was another question from Bert who was asking to add a renderer, but you did it previously. So
yes, exactly. So Bert already knows the good practices and knows how to use Smode in a good way. And just to remind this, you have a Control-Shift-A shortcut that automatically adds a renderer. So really, this design of multiple renderers has been created with stages in mind and has been called by this. So it's a good practice in Compose, but it's even a better practice in projects.
okay, maybe in the
Okay.
meantime, we have another question from Bert.
Yeah, sure.
If you stretch your content over all screens, does it take into account the gap in between?
So not yet, because for the moment we only played with a content map, and the important thing of the content map is that it's a way to pack all the content together into rectangles, because we need this for technical reasons. And content map will be always like the packed format, which only contains relevant pixels that contain relevant information. And in order to take into account the actual gap between the screens, we need to go one step further and create a 3D camera mapping. And that's absolutely what we wanted to do just after this. So, and we will be able to show you how to create a 3D camera mapping. So maybe while it's still restarting, I can start explaining you. So what do we want for a camera mapping is first of all a point of view, a reference point of view. So in French, we often call it le point de vue président, so the president's point of view, meaning it's in general the best location from where you can see the show and from where you have an overall view of the stage. And so this is really the first step, create a camera and define this reference view that will be seeing all the screens. So the important thing for the camera mapping is to see everything and to have no duplication, no two objects, one in front of the other. Because when this happens, it's the limit of camera mapping. We will have the same pixels repeated twice. So let me try to reconnect to the server, or maybe Erwan is already there.
Yes. I'm connect again. So I will organize maybe better this this stage. So just position my screen a little better, something like that, and something like that. Let's select them all and add a rotation on this. So here we are. Let's go back in the content. I remove all of my layer. I keep the content test pattern just to have some example of how you create visuals for your stage on Smode. So here you have your composition and all your files you want to import inside this. So I import the composition of yesterday. Here I can choose to import it, so I have access to all the content, all the layers, and all the modifiers that compose the composition. Or I can use it as reference, so it will become just a single layer that sends the same content on the same content map. So let's import this as reference. Here you can see the composition of yesterday. So I want to target the second one. So it didn't change anything because of my placement fit position, fit scale, sorry. And I am also able to create other layers. So let's have, for example, a noise with a curtains preset. Let's change it to red. Add renderer. Target the first content map and target the third content map. So this is what you have. I can animate the noise that makes the curtains with a place standalone layer. Okay, so now I'm happy with this visual. I can group it and it creates automatically, you see, the same icon of the show. So this group are scenes. To group it, sorry, I make the shortcut so you don't have see how I do that. So I select the layers I want to group and choose group, Control Shift G. So this is my very first scene. First scene. I can now create other layers. For example, let's have, I don't know, maybe some pictures. So go back in the standard pack, choose texture, seamless texture. Ah, okay.
In the meantime, maybe
break.
if I may ask a question.
Yes.
There are two questions actually. There's one about performance, which is the reference better for GPU, or when the compo is finished, nothing changed for GPU use?
So actually, it's nearly the same. For the GPU, the same thing will happen. So it's mostly a question of workflow, because when it's a reference, you can still change the compo and it will be updated automatically in the project. Whereas if you import it, then the data is stored now in the project and your initial compo does not matter anymore. So often, I mean, different workflows are possible. But like if we wish to take yesterday's compo and to adapt it quickly in order to make it 3 times HD, then the approach would rather be to import it and start from this as a starting basis and readapt quickly in the project. So I think if you need to adapt in order to take the project specificities into account, you better import the compo. If you want to keep the data stored in the compo and the compo already matches the correct resolution and so on, you better reference the compo.
Thank you, Francis. And there was another question about imports again. So if you import a composition and you do some modifications, is the original compo updated, or is it the same as before?
No, as I just told, when you import the compo, it's a copy that's local specific to the project. So there is no link anymore to the source compo.
Thank you. That was all for the questions currently.
Okay, thank you.
So let's add another layer. So this is a picture. I want to target the full content maps, but this is a very small picture. So I can use, as Francis says, to placement and full it, but it's not beautiful at all. So because it's too big, so I can add a distortion 2D transform on it and rescale this layer just to fit and have a better resolution. So yeah, this one is correct. Let's imagine that our stage is not organized like that, but the left and right LED screens are in front of the first one, something like that, and maybe rotated. So let's have a rotation of let's 45 degrees. And or maybe 55. Same thing here. 55 degrees. So let's imagine our stage is this one. If you want to send content that with the perspective, by changing the perspective, just in order to make the illusion of a plane perspective, a camera mapping perspective. We will let's have this example with a text. So I create a text layer here, increase the size of the font. So this is what my text is currently looking at. If you want to have this text sent into the entire stage, but thanks a different perspective, so a point of view, you have access to another pipeline element, which is the 3D camera mapping. So maybe, Francis, you can add some description of what it does?
I think we need to create a camera first inside the stage, probably.
Okay.
If I will explain how it works.
Okay. This is not I'm not usual with this way to explain it. But let's create a camera. We want to pass through the perspective of this stage. So let's create a camera with this preset, orthographic front. I'm now able to create a 3D camera mapping that will need to have a mapping point of view. So this is my camera, and target some stage element. So here I can choose, I can pick some stage element. So I want to impact all of this element, my 3 planar light screen. Let's change the resolution to fit the content map. Okay, and okay. So this is what how my pipeline looks like now. I have this mapping that target my content map, and content map is attached to some stage elements. If I go back in my stage, yes?
We can delete the other content map since we don't need it anymore.
Yes.
We tried that you can have multiple content maps,
yeah.
But now we only are using one actually.
This one is better. So if I go back in my stage and in my content, I can pick this layer, and instead of targeting the content map, I can target the orthographic camera mapping. Now, if I go back in my pipeline and select the orthographic camera, I can change the frustum size just to fit my stage. And now my text is sent inside my my text, yes, is sent inside my stage through the point of view of this orthographic camera. So just to be
in this case,
yeah,
it's orthographic in this case, so it corresponds to filling a box. Maybe I can click to show this. So we are actually sending the contents through this box, and every stage element that is crossed by the box will be impacted. The other way to do it is to use a perspective point of view. So you for this you have the front perspective camera preset, for example, and then we can simply change the point of view which is attached to the mapping, the camera mapping. So now it's using the perspective. And how does that look?
Yeah, your camera is too.
It's probably a bit too close. And now it's this camera. So this camera actually behaves like a virtual projector. Oops, my mouse. Oops. It behaves like a virtual projector. We probably need to fix the aspect ratio like this. And also what's nice is that this image immediately is impacted by the actual screen location of the screens. So for example, if this central screen is moving, you can see that the text does not move at all because the text is being sent by the camera, which really behaves like a kind of virtual projector. So this usually is the technique we use when we have motors with feedback. So this requires a feedback from the motors, which we don't have now, but at least we can simulate this with, for example, a back and forth loop. We will do a specific topic on loops, but let me just let it loop between -5 and +5 meters. And now that this screen is automatically moving, we can see what's happening inside the content map, and that's the actual contents being sent. Also, I think we did not talk about the video output yet, but this part of the pipeline is where the actual outputs of the media server are. So, for example, you can have 6 or 8 outputs on one server, and each of these outputs is linked to an element of the pipeline. So by default, we have one output which is linked to the content map, and the output corresponds to a video output device which is configured here. So in this case, we are sending to NDI, which enables us to send the image, the resulting image of Smode, into the streaming software in order to show you the results. Yeah, that's what Basil is doing, which is with us behind the scene. But usually, this is where you will put your actual outputs of the media server. So yeah, and also there is a fitting mode. So if we want to see the whole thing, we need to configure it in fit inside, and then it changes the 3x HD into the 1x HD output in this case, because we only have one HD. And by the way, since I'm in this location, I wanted to show this quick tool, which enables to send a test pattern to the output. So it's the same as here. And these buttons are really useful when debugging a technical setup. For example, when things are not going like we want, that's the really easy way to bypass the pipeline, put some test pattern at any place within the pipeline, and see what happens. So yes, that was about 3D camera mapping. Erwan?
Yeah, there is something we forget to explain to you yesterday with layers and compositing. So you need to have multiple layers right here. I have explained this drop-down list, which is the mapping or the content map your layer is actually targeting. But here you have the blending mode of your layers. Let's have an example by create a gradient. Let's just change this this color, the color of the gradient. Put it on the perspective camera, increase it a little. Yep, something like this. So you are able to make compositing also inside your scene and inside your content and play with the blending mode. So here I can have a layer, a circular gradient in multiply blending mode, and this is the look of my scene. And I can change the target of this layer to another. I can also add a renderer, Ctrl-Shift-A, target another content map. So as you can see, it's very, very, very easy to create some look and some styles to your visual. No, I'm happy
Yeah,
with this look.
I
Yes,
want
sorry.
to point out here also is that you can also see that we are mixing between two different types of mappings. The direct mapping, we send content into the content map space, and the global mapping where we go through a camera mapping that impacts different screens in different locations and that take into account the actual 3D spacing between the screens. And the great thing in Smode is that there is no constraint on the order of layers and of compositing between these two type of mappings, the local mapping and the global mapping. Like here in current case, the circular gradients that are multiplied are sent directly to the content map, whereas the text behind, which is getting multiplied, the Smode text layer, is using the camera mapping. And you can really freely mix the two types and composite them together. So as far as I know, Smode is probably the only software package enabling to have this. I mean, to keep the control inside contents over the order of compositing when mixing global camera mappings and local addressing to screens.
Yes, Laurent, maybe we have some question.
Not really questions for the moment.
No? Okay.
Some remarks. Bert tells us that it's a bit confusing that it's called a camera instead of a projector. And Charlie makes us notice that the motor with feedback was used successfully in the concert of GIMS.
Yes,
Okay.
sure. It has been used successfully in many concerts already and many venues. So this is motor Swiss feedback is something we are doing since really years already, and which works perfectly fine in Sales Mode. So thank you, Charlie. And about sorry, what was the question?
The confusing between camera and projector. So
yeah. So you can think of as the 3D camera mapping as a virtual projector. It's really like this. It's a virtual projector that does not exist in the physical world, but that behaves like a projector. So that's really the good image to have in order to think at the 3D camera mapping. But what we did is we choose to really stick to the classical term in the field of content creation. Camera mapping is really a technique which is known by all content designers. So we decided to stick to this. It's true that in Smode, since we are interfacing two very different worlds, the content design world and the media server technical world, sometimes we need to arbitrate for a term that comes rather from one side or the other. And that's what happens here. Do we have some other questions, Laurent?
That's it for the moment.
Okay, so
hey, hello, Jordi.
to conclude, we can do one last thing, which is to group this second beautiful scene and call it second scene. And now, and also we can put this content map in a group and call it, for example, the test patterns scene. And now things get a bit more organized. We have three scenes. First one is a test pattern scene that only sends content to the full content map. The second scene is those with the curtain and yesterday's compo. And the last scene is the one we just did with the camera mapping. And of course, you can composite those scenes together. Like for example, if I want to fade from the first scene to the second scene, I simply select the normal blending and then I can do my fading. So I think that's it for now. Maybe one last thing we can show. So let me save this project.
Before you say, I just want to import the compositing landscape from yesterday because the path to this layer is this one, but it won't be the same for everybody. So if I import the composition, the content will remain the same for every people who want to download the project after this live.
Okay, perfect. To conclude, I suggest you,
yes.
as an exercise, you could try to open those projects and try to understand how they are made. And I advise in particular to try opening the whole kind of Let's project that really uses the same techniques as we did today, but on a much bigger scale. So this is up to you. And I think Erwan will conclude with the upcoming live presentation.
So yes. Tomorrow, it's Basil who will explain you how to use the cloud and the Smode Academy servers. So to enable you to use it to understand Smode, to make some exercise, and maybe to start your own show, your own project, thanks to this live. So Francis, maybe you want to add something about the Smode Academy server?
We will see the Smode Academy servers. We will demo it, and also we will provide you a 1 hour free session in order to test this Smode Academy server. So I saw one question about the Mac version. Mac version is not on our roadmap, so I would not expect on it. It can work with dual boot. Some users do it. But in this case, the Smode Academy server is really a good option because it enables to leverage the power of a PC which is running in the cloud. So we will see all of this tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this session today, despite the few technical difficulties. And we'll see you tomorrow.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.